Hello there everybody, Sabara92 Nightmare, and welcome back to the house in Fata Morgana, a Requiem for Innocence. Now, we are in part 2, and I'm guessing we're in now Morgana's perspective, after she was kidnapped 4 years earlier. Okay. It wasn't until I'd lost everything that I truly understood just how blessed I had been. How much my time with them had allayed my wounded spirit. And how hard they had worked to mold me into an ordinary girl. But that was all gone now. I may not have said as much, but I liked it there. I was quite fond of the tranquility. I didn't want to lose it. I wanted to be happy as much as anyone else. I had long lost track of how far I had walked. My legs were stiff and my knees didn't want to bend anymore. It took all my effort to remain upright, and I was certain I would never get back up if I did fall down. I still couldn't wrap my mind around what had happened. It was all so sudden, all so horribly senseless. It was so mind-bogglingly horrendous. Part of me refused to believe it was anything more than a bad dream. And that was what kept me walking. Because if I did accept it as reality, I would lose what remained of my will to live. It was supposed to be a party. The girls got together to celebrate my birthday. Making food and treats that, while hardly extravagant, were still a significant improvement over what we usually had. Everyone was laughing. Part of me was irritated by the whole affair, as I'd never been comfortable in such lively environments. They were celebrating me. My birthday. I should have been overjoyed. Maybe this was my punishment for being so unappreciative. As soon as I stepped out, bandits raided the brothel. Had I stayed there but a few minutes longer, things likely would have turned out quite differently. Whether for better or worse, I couldn't begin to guess. But at the very least, I probably wouldn't be here alone. I could have gone with them to the next life. During the raid, a man grabbed me, and I lost consciousness almost immediately after. When I awoke, I was in a foul-smelling carriage. People were packed into the carriage like livestock. There were dozens of them. Every inch of usable space filled with a body. Looking out across the cramped space, I knew instinctively I was on my way to becoming a slave. Once I had been sold off as a saint, a highly valuable commodity. But this time around, I was cheap, expendable labor. I was filled with an overwhelming emptiness as the realization struck. Something resembling sorrow wavered about in the void as well. But it wasn't a sadness for my own predicament. It broke my heart knowing I would never see them again. That everyone I had to thank for all those warm, peaceful days had either been killed or sold off. In time, the sadness swelled to form tears in my eyes. My whole life I had managed to endure without crying, and the first time I did, I shed tears for someone else. The man next to me asked,
"Why are you crying?"
To which I answered, "I'm sad, because I didn't get the chance to show my gratitude to people very dear to me." But if that had been the end of our conversation, I wouldn't be here. Hobbling down this endless road alone, I wouldn't be covered in so much blood. Sometime after I had responded, the man suddenly stood up and murdered the guards and slave traders. At first, the other slaves thought they were saved, and for a moment I believed so too. He was a very curious-looking man. His eyes smaller and narrower than ours. His nose a different shape. I'd never seen anyone who looked like him before. All I knew was that he wasn't from around here. The man, wielding a sword stolen from a guard, searched through the slave trader's clothes for the keys to our shackles, which he gave to me and made me free his hands. before proceeding to kill the slaves. I stood aghast as the massacre unfolded before me. Blood pooled at my feet, severed limbs were strewn about the carriage. Bodies piled up haphazardly, many having only had enough time for their eyes to go wide in shock before being cut down. Men, women, children, everyone equals at the end of his blade. The strange-looking man laughed as he slaughtered the slaves. He laughed and he laughed like he was having the time of his life. And when he was done, he stepped out of the carriage and wandered off, leaving me alone, the sole survivor. I had witnessed so much death in so short a time. Cruel, meaningless violence. Its victims powerless to resist. And here I stood among the bodies, left alive. For some inexplicable reason, left alive. The screams, the despair, the pleas, the death, the laughter, all reverberating inside my head. Oh, Father, who art in heaven, please give me your mercy. I cannot take it anymore. I pray, free me from this pain. My spirit was about at its breaking point. I was certain that I too would sink into the bottomless abyss, if I kept all these emotions inside me much longer. God. I walked and walked and walked and walked. No food, no water, my exhaustion at its peak, my mind in a complete haze. When off in the distance I caught sight of a lake. So thirsty. Water. I began hobbling in the general direction of the lake, not caring that it took me off the main road. Bandits could have assailed me, wild animals made me their prey. None of that mattered to me anymore. At least then I wouldn't have to walk anymore. But for better or worse, I made it to the lake unmolested. The water was clear as crystal and seemed to sparkle like one as well. As soon as it was within reach, I dropped to my knees and drank, my thirst seemingly insatiable. The blood covering me had dried several days earlier, but its bitter stench lingered. So after a brief glance about my surroundings, I washed myself. The chill of the midwinter lake water and occasional gust of wind pierced me to my very bones. No one in their right mind would bathe in this weather. But common sense and the chattering of my teeth didn't stop me. I wanted only to be clean again, and the frigid water felt like it would strip everything away, leaving my body and spirit new and unsullied. Once I was satisfied, I came to the belated realization that a small cottage sat on the lakeside. There's smoke coming from the chimney. Maybe there's someone inside. It could be someone bad, though. Maybe it would be safer to stay away. But who knows when I might find someone else. Excuse me. Is anyone there? Hello? The door's unlocked. It was so warm inside. The heat from the fire seeped into my chilled flesh, spreading slowly. I almost burst into tears again. Sitting before the fireplace was an old woman. A cauldron hung above the flames, bubbling with a curious-colored liquid. Ma'am? The woman merely sat there, her head drooped. Slowly I approached her, half certain of what I would find, and placed my hand on her shoulder. She was dead. And I hardly so much as batted an eye at the sight of yet another corpse. In fact, she looked like she had passed quite peacefully by comparison. How blessed she was. There was no sign bandits had been rooting through the cottage. Presumably she had fallen asleep and passed away naturally while in the middle of concocting something. Looking around the room, I found myself surrounded by countless items I couldn't begin to identify. Plants of all colors hanging from the ceiling to dry. Berries, crushed and stored in small glass bottles. Were I to guess, the old woman made her living off herbal medicines. Having gotten a good look around the room, I thought that perhaps I had been guided here. And if my father had led me to this place, he would not frown upon me for doing what was necessary to make use of it. So I dragged the old woman's corpse from the cottage and pushed it into the lake. If I didn't take up residence in the cottage, someone else eventually would. Or it would just be left to deteriorate. And I would rather take the opportunity bestowed upon me to have a place to rest my weary soul.
Well, I mean, I can understand why you wouldn't be able to, like, you know, dig her up a grave. I guess logically it would make sense to go ahead and put her in the lake that she probably... I mean, this is a very old woman, so... she probably lived here for, like, an extremely long time. And she must... and... I'm talking about a woman that's been predetermined to be dead, but... I can imagine that floating peacefully in a lake, maybe, would not be such a bad thing. I don't know. As the woman's body sank into the clear lake, a realization struck me. I hadn't crossed myself. A few days after I moved into the cottage, a man came to the door. Apparently, he had been a customer of the woman's, a witch by trade, and he was looking for more medicine. When I spoke to him through the door, he gave a short gasp and said,
"Who are you? Where's the witch?"
I am her granddaughter. She is not presently home.
Huh. Never knew the old lady had kids. So, when she's gonna be back?
Not for some time.
Well, damn. You know much about herbs, girl?
What?
As long as I can get my medicine, I don't really care who supplies it. You, her, it doesn't matter. I'll still pay.
Oh, God. One moment, please. My knowledge of herbology was essentially non-existent, but if there was a possibility I could make a living off of it, there was no reason for me not to try. I asked the man to give me as much information about the herbs he had been receiving, color, texture, smell, anything, and rummaged about until I found something that fit the description. The entire exchange occurred through the barely cracked door. The man paid me as promised, but I quickly realized that money wasn't of much use to me, as I had no intention of returning to the city. So I told him that, in the future, I would trade for supplies, which he happily agreed to.
That's good.
A few days later, another man called upon the cottage. But unlike the first man, he sounded crude and uncivilized. I didn't want to cut off a potential source of supplies, though, so I handed him the medicine he requested. But when I did, he let out a low snicker and said,
"What do you say I look after you, girlie?"
He then shoved his hand in through the crack into the door and grabbed my wrist.
You ain't fooling me. The hag's dead and it's just you, ain't it? A little girl like you needs someone to look after her. Make sure no bad man threaten you.
Ugh. Every word that came from his mouth oozed with sleaze. I knew what would happen if he got the door open. Let go!
Whoa!
I yanked my arm back with all my strength and slammed the door shut and set the bar. But even that wasn't enough to quell my uneasiness, so I put a chair against it as well.
You're being very smart, Morgana.
The man pounded on the door, each slam of his fists causing the whole room to vibrate.
Overreact much, huh, girlie? Come on, open up! I still ain't paid you yet. Brought something real nice, too. Open up. I want you to have it.
I don't need your payment. I am never doing business with you again, so please get off my property!
Want to say that again? You got a lot of nerve, eh, you little bitch? Open the damn door! You don't want to know what'll happen if you don't. You got more for sale than just a bags of leaves, don't you? Open the fucking door!
Fuck you, dude.
Just stay quiet, Morgana. The best way to handle people like him is to just not respond.
Good for nothing, you. One day you'll learn your lesson. This world will eat a little girlie like you right up.
After giving the door one final parting kick, the man stormed off, loudly grumbling about how stupid and ungrateful I was all the while. I didn't deserve a word of his cursing, but at the same time I couldn't bring myself to be upset about it. He was right. The world would not be kind to a young girl living on her own. Not so long as men like him roamed free.
Yeah, assholes like him don't really, they're not really the best.
I paced before the fireplace, my mind racing. I can't be sure I'm safe anywhere. Not even here. But going back to the city isn't an option. And not while the Lord lives to keep throwing his blood sabbats. Everyone who might have protected me is gone. I have to make it on my own now. I have to be very careful about opening the door. I could be attacked again, or worse. I mean, most men would probably run as soon as they saw my face. But most doesn't mean all. There are some out there who will go after anyone. I can't let my guard down while I'm doing business, not even for a second. Man or woman, everyone is a potential threat. I'll make it on my own. I don't need anyone else. Me and only me. Being out here really has shown me just how sheltered I was at the brothel, how kind everyone was, how peaceful my life was. I just want to go back. No, stop it, Morgana. You're stronger than that. I put enough wood in the fire for it to last the whole night, then curled up into a ball and slept beside it. For the first time in my life, solitude frightened me. Morgana. What, were you planning to sleep all... I'm guessing... Okay. That's gotta be, Jacopo. What? Were you planning to sleep all day? Come on, you're not Jiren. Uh-huh. About time. Good morning. What little of it remains, anyway. What's with that look? Still waking up? What are you doing here? Excuse me? Why would I not be here? That doesn't answer my question. How did you even... A little bird told me where to find you. So you survived? Do I look dead to you? Oh my god, don't tell me she's hallucinating right now. No, but... Still, you... Oh yeah, she is hallucinating, I mean... I thought you were killed during the raid. I may not be as good with a sword as someone, but you know I'm no pushover. I wasn't going to let a bunch of bandits get the best of me. What? Were you worried? Seriously? And I thought all you knew how to do was damn me to the fires of hell. Was I worried? Of course I was, you oblivious dolt! I never actually meant it when I said you should be cast into hell. Of course I want to see you alive. Of course, it would hurt me to lose you. I'm sorry. That was callous of me. I was afraid I would never see you again. I thought I had lost everything. Everyone. I was scared to death. Whoa. No need to cry. You're tougher than that. I am not crying! If you say so. Oh my god, is this... Oh dear. And what do you mean I'm tougher than that? What do you think I am, made of stone? First you tried to pretend I'm a normal girl, and now you act like I'm some kind of heartless creature. Make up your mind already! I'm sorry, really. You're a perfectly ordinary girl, Morgana. Can you say that looking at my face? I'm looking at it right now. Even though I'm a mean-spirited, bitter little girl. Even though you're a mean-spirited, bitter little girl. I thought it's nice you acknowledged it. Oh, burn in hell! Say, I want to ask you something. And I want you to not call me weak for it this time. Let's hear it. Will you stay with me? I don't want to be alone anymore. It terrifies me. Yeah, absolutely. I'll stay right here forever. You know you won't be able to accomplish your dreams out here, right? And you're fine with that? You bet. You told me to stay, and stay I will. We live right on a lake, and there's some mountains nearby. All things considered, it's not a bad location. We can plant some crops, go fishing in the lake, sprawl out on the grass under the starry sky. Sounds like a pretty good life to me. And maybe sometimes you could sing a little song. And I'll sit there listening quietly. Or if you want some accompaniment, I can procure some instruments. That sound as nice to you as it does to me. Nothing? Seriously? What else could you want? How about... No. That's more than enough. Yes. If I could have a life like that, it will have made every misfortune in my life worth suffering. Oh. He's not here. It was a dream. What else could it have been? He's dead, just like everyone else. They all died in the raid. And even if he was alive, he wouldn't come looking for me.
Oh God, don't say that.
What a childish dream. Fight it, Morgana. You cannot cry over a simple dream. You are the daughter of God. Your tears are only to be shed for others, not yourself.
Aww.
Damn it!
This just hurts.
I pounded my fists against the floor again and again and again, sobbing like a petulant child. I'd never cried like this before. Not as I witnessed men, women, and children being slaughtered. Not when I was taken from my home. Not when I was chained up and tortured by the Lord. It wasn't until I realized just how much I needed that warmth, that I would never have it again, that my spirit hit rock bottom. Finding and then losing happiness hurt worse than anything else. I wish I had never known happiness. I wish no one had ever shown me kindness. Not if it means I have to go through this. I wish I had never known what it was like to be normal. I could have just stayed the daughter of God my whole life. Then I wouldn't be feeling like this.
Oh God.
I never knew crying like that was so exhausting. And I never want to experience it again. I want to go back to who I used to be. A saint. If I didn't know happiness, I wouldn't have to feel like this. I just have to forget it all. That part of my life, it never happened. No peace, no rest. Only trials from my father. That is all I have ever known. It's not hard. Just don't think about those years. Then you won't have to cry like this ever again. It's for the best. It's my only choice. See, I was always right. I never was, and never will be normal. The only ones who will offer me salvation are God or one of his angels. And so I did precisely that. I led a solitary life. I did all my business hidden behind the cottage door. And I sent away anyone who wasn't here for medicine. Once a mounted man in armor rode up to the cottage. He looked like a knight, but I had no interest in getting involved with anyone who went around carrying weapons. I was responsible for my own safety, so I had to be careful about who I opened my door to. I had to be extra careful about who I dealt with. But I didn't feel sad or lonely about it. By making that my normal, there was nothing to lament. Which meant old memories served no purpose but to cause me pain. So I endeavored to push them far, far away into the depths of my mind. I couldn't simply discard my memories of what the Lord had done to me, of course, or of the wonderful people I had met at the brothel, but as time trekked on, they faded into almost nothing. I couldn't describe what any one person's voice sounded like, how they acted around me, what kind of person they were, the things we did together, what they looked like, what their name was, anything of importance. I knew good and well it was callous to forget about all the people who had shown me such kindness and warmth, but I would never see them again, and thinking about them only brought me pain, so there was no point in remembering. It was all I could do to make it by. Nearly 4 years had passed since I had assumed the role of the Lakeside Witch. My 16th birthday was approaching, but my age was perhaps the only thing I had in common with an ordinary teenage girl. Although if I had grown up like any other girl, having spent my childhood as a saint before being held captive by the Lord and made to witness countless people's deaths, that would probably mean there was something deeply wrong with me. About that point, a terrible cynicism had taken root in my heart. I built high walls around myself, keeping my contact with the outside world as terse and pragmatic as possible. With each passing day, my voice grew more monotonous, my interactions following a well-rehearsed script. My customers didn't make any attempts to force their way into my shell either. I'd begun to suspect they might think me not a witch by trade, but I'd actually formed a pact with the devil and worked his dark magic. No one said as much, but I could sense what seemed to be fear in their voices when they came to me. On the other hand, I never had anyone else try to force themselves into the cottage like the man 4 years earlier, so I would say I had a rather peaceful life. If you considered a life in which no one wanted anything to do with you peaceful, that is. I'd also come to learn a fair bit about herbology. I could now make my own medicines, rather than just making do with what was already here when I moved in. Although, a fair bit still amounted to almost nothing when compared to what my predecessor was capable of. Nevertheless, I had a relatively solid grasp on what herbs to use to treat different symptoms. Enough to formally assume the name of the Lakeside Witch, at least. And so time flowed on, uneventful and quiet, until one day when a young man showed up at my door. Oh, here he is. Excuse me, is anyone home? I knew right away that he was a new customer. No one that had traded with me before bothered with such pleasantries anymore. They wanted the process to be quick and frictionless, and I preferred it that way as well. Oh, of course the updated sprite too. Except now I can see her face significantly more. Who's there? When I responded from behind the door, he seemed to be taken aback. After several moments with no answer, I tensed up slightly and repeated the question. My sister has fallen very ill, and she desperately needs medicine. He has a very pretty voice. I was told that the person who lives here is a skilled herbalist. Could I please get something to treat her? What are her symptoms? She's got an extremely high fever that won't come down. She has no appetite. She's only drinking water, and she can't get out of bed. Everyone always seems to be looking for medicine for themselves. I haven't had a customer like him in some time now. We're going to want to lower her fever first. After that, get her on a nutritious diet. I'm going to give you 2 medications. I'll give her the first while her fever is high, and the second after it's come down.
Thank you very much.
When was the last time someone thanked me? Here's your medicine. It's powdered, so mix it with some water and have your sister drink it.
Are you not going to open the door any wider?
Is that necessary?
No, sorry. Just a second. Let me get you your money.
I take supplies for my services, not money.
Oh, I didn't realize. I'm so sorry. This is all I have on me today. Would you maybe be willing to accept this as payment today?
Very well. Is that a gold coin? Those herbs aren't worth nearly this much. Just who is this man? And what on earth is he doing here at Witch's cottage? In any other situation, I would have been tempted to look. What if he saw me? He would think me disgusting, ridicule me like everyone else. It didn't hurt knowing what people thought of me, but it was hardly pleasant hearing it vocalized either. And what if he decided to do something in that moment I dropped my guard? He could force the door open, have his way with me. He doesn't seem like that kind of man, though. A trust was about the farthest thing from my mind when interacting with people these days. I always remained on high alert, keeping a safe distance from everyone, no matter how good they appeared on the surface. But for some reason, I felt strangely comfortable in this young man's presence. At the time, I couldn't have explained why. But in retrospect, I imagine it was largely a result of his upbringing. He spoke in a clear, well-enunciated voice. He had a polite, friendly air about him, which I could feel even through the door. It wasn't the sort of well-mannered you could fake with a bit of practice, nor the sort you encountered out in the middle of nowhere. A curiosity took hold of me. I had to know what he looked like. I wasn't going to throw the door open, of course, and I had no intention of inviting him in either. I just wanted to get a little peek at him through the crack in the door. So I opened it ever slightly, slightly wider than usual when I reached out to take his payment. Oh no, he saw me.
Wow, I didn't think you would be so young. I guessed you were a little older.
What?
Thank you for doing business with me. And I'm sorry for not coming properly prepared. If I need any more, I'll be sure to bring supplies next time.
All right.
Again, I really appreciate it. Have a nice day.
You too. He saw my face, and he wasn't disgusted. He actually smiled. I was so caught off guard that I thought for a second that maybe my face had healed. So I ran over to my water basin and a glimmer of hope in my heart, gazing at my reflection. But the face looking back at me was the same as always. A grotesque, unsightly, patchy mess. A part of me was disappointed, but more than anything I was flabbergasted by what had just happened. How could he smile at the sight of this face?
Well, I think I've already gave my opinion on that a long time ago, honestly.
For a split second, my mind slipped back in time 4 years. The man who had applied ointment to my face. He had never seemed disturbed by my appearance either. Not long afterward, the young man called upon my cottage again. He said that the medicine had briefly relieved his sister's symptoms, but that it had failed to actually cure what had ailed her. Herbal medicine required patience and persistence before its effects manifested, I informed him, to which he responded with a sad smile. He was a handsome young man, not far from what I had imagined from his voice, and the smile suited him quite well. There was a distinct elegance emanating from him. Ragged clothing aside, he was about how I envisioned a fairy tale prince might look. Though I knew quite well those only existed in fiction. Real nobles were terrible, miserable, reprehensible people. After a few visits, we started having little conversations outside of our business transactions. He told me his name, Mel, as well as his sister's, Nellie, and I told him mine. Mel was 17, only a year older than me. Then one day,
he invited me outside for a walk. It's not healthy to stay holed up inside all the time. You've got this beautiful lake right here. What do you say we take a little walk around the shoreline? I was going to turn him down, but my mouth seemed to disagree with my mind, and the next thing I knew I was taking a walk with someone for the first time in years. Although, with might be something of a stretch. I kept a safe distance from him as we walked. Amel seemed disappointed with my unwillingness to get any closer, but I couldn't bring myself to trust him that much yet. Nonetheless, it was a momentous enough occasion that I felt justified describing it as such. I'm sure I made him uncomfortable on numerous occasions during our walks. To say I acted disagreeably would be an understatement. Anytime he closed the gaps between us, I stepped a little bit further away. Every response I gave was curt, and I repeatedly shot him down whenever he started getting wistful or sentimental. The Morgana of 4 years prior might have been a little softer with him, a little more human. Maybe she would have given him a little smile or a pout instead, but that girl was long gone. I despised the humanity that had once started taking root in me, and I endeavored to be something different again. In one instance, he heard a robin chirping and said, "If I had wings like a bird, maybe I could be free too." To which I responded, "There is not a single creature living in this world that is free." What? Birds regularly get shot down by hunters, or preyed on by larger birds. Man, it's been a while since I've seen you, Mel. The idea that they are free is nothing more than man's short-sighted delusion. Sorry. No, I should be apologizing. I wasn't trying to attack you. I simply lack the ability to properly empathize with people. I do not understand people. So please, if I say anything that upsets you or makes you uncomfortable, don't assume that was my intention. Sure. Maybe you're hiding it, or maybe you don't know it yet, but I think you've got more empathy than you're letting on. Surely, you can't say nothing affects you at all. You are human. At one point that was true, though it was perhaps somewhat difficult for others to see. I felt great beauty in the world when I knelt before the gravestones, but such sentiments have long since been lost to me. So, you don't have to be so closed off. I might not be able to do much for you, but I do want to get to know you better. I want to understand you. So, if you ever feel like talking about yourself, just know that you've got an eager pair of ears here. Okay? If there were ever someone who could understand me, if there was ever someone who could understand what I am now, who could empathize with me, who had been through trials as great as mine, they would not be human. What do you mean? Mel, you have no idea the kind of shit that she's been through. That you would need to be far removed from any idea of humanity to have a chance of understanding me. Regardless, I do appreciate your kind words. Sure. So, out of curiosity, do you have anyone, really important to you in your life? Not at the moment. Does that mean you used to? I'd love to hear about them, if you don't mind. They're all long dead. 4 years ago, something unpleasant occurred, and as a result of that, I was forced to part ways with the people who taught me that humans have the capability for kindness. Oh, I'm sorry. Well then, if your sister's condition worsens again, come see me. Farewell. Hey, maybe we could walk a little slower next time, so we have more time to talk? I want to get to know you better. I'll consider it. All right. So long. Bye. See you soon.
I was conscious of how cold and distant I was being toward him, but I had no interest in changing anything. Not that I even knew how to anymore. I had never known particularly well how to choose the right words, the proper way to act in various circumstances. But what little knowledge I had possessed, I'd long since lost. I assumed, after the things I had said to him, Mel would never ask me on another walk again. But I was wrong. He did the very next time he came for medicine, and every time after that as well.
Hey, so I was thinking, I bet you'd make a really good singer if you wanted.
A singer?
Yeah. You've got this really pretty voice. I think it'd be nice if you tried using it to sing. I'm sorry. It's not my place to tell you what to do. You hardly talk. Why would I think you'd want to sing?
I'm glad we're on the same page. Never again.
Sorry about that, really. Anyway, I wonder who first came up with the idea to sing. You can brighten someone's day or sour their mood with just the sound of your voice. Kinda amazing, don't you think? It's almost like magic. Oh, and there are battle songs, too, for getting soldiers fired up for combat.
Battle. Now there's a word I never expected to hear from you.
I mean,
I am a guy.
I admire anyone who has the strength to go to battle. I could never, ever do it myself, though. The sight of blood makes me sick, and I barely know which end of a sword you're supposed to grab.
You're a noble, aren't you? What need do you have for knowing how to use a sword?
That's what I used to think, too. But now I think I should have gotten training. I may not have been a soldier, but I needed to be strong. I could have avoided so much if I was. And Nellie wouldn't have to live in a rundown shack in the middle of nowhere.
As I recall, he said once that he was forced from his house after a dispute over who the rightful heir was. High society sounds like endless fun.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't care about any of this.
No, you're fine. I'm the one who asked.
Thanks. I want you to know, I really do appreciate it. It's nice to just be able to talk about this stuff to someone.
You're naturally sociable. I'm sure you could find plenty of other people willing to listen.
I don't get into town much, not even to run errands, so I'm still kind of an outsider. You're my only friend right now. I hope that wasn't too presumptuous of me.
Call me whatever you like.
Oh, thank goodness. We should do this more often, really. Talk more, get to know each other better, become better friends.
To what end?
No end, just, you know, having friends is better than being alone. That's all.
I see. I'll be heading back in now. See you again.
Yeah, see you soon, Morgana.
Little by little, his words were getting closer to reaching the old me. Not enough to provoke an actual response, of course, but that wasn't his fault. I'd locked myself up too deeply. I no longer knew how to express emotions, most especially those that resulted from human warmth. However, I'd regained enough of something to feel a sort of nostalgia in my interactions with Mel, and I thought perhaps with enough time, I could go back to who I had been 4 years prior. But shortly thereafter, he threw all that into the wind with a single utterance.
I'll take anything at this point to make her better. I'll even take a miracle if I can get one.
He appeared exhausted that day, much more than usual. His sister's condition had begun to worsen again. That one muttered word set off a spark in my mind. It sent me back in time, well beyond when I was taught humanity 4 years ago, to my very origin. I was the daughter of God. My blood had healing properties, and the instant I remembered that, there was only one course of action I could take. Without a moment's hesitation, I informed him that miracles did exist, that I had been born a saint, and that my blood had miraculous powers. That after leaving the village of my birth, my power had only ever been misused. First by the Lord for his sick banquets, then by me for letting it lay idle for so long. Now is the time for me to correct that. He was a kind-hearted young man who loved his sister, who deserved this blessing more than them. I told him everything. At first he was surprised, but never once did he accuse me of lying. He listened carefully and intently, taking in every word. And when I was finished, he said he believed me. He said he would entrust his sister's care to me. Mel's sister slept upon a simple bed. She was a sweet little girl who looked like she would have been quite spirited if not for her ailment. Both she and her brother had beautifully flaxen hair. They looked as if they had been both yanked from a painting.
Oh, the painting, of course.
Seeing them there, I wanted to do everything I could to help them, to ensure their happiness. And I knew I had the ability to do so. No longer would I be the one receiving others' charity. I could be the one giving it again. And so I made a new cut on my mostly healed arm. For the briefest of moments, a flash of him applying ointment appeared in my mind, but I quickly cast it off. I'm remembering Jacopo. The flaxen-haired girl showed signs of recovering as a result of my miracle. The boy came to my cottage, overjoyed, to thank me. I was extremely proud of myself. I felt like for once I'd actually saved someone's life. I had finally been able to use my gift to help someone truly good. After the miracle, though, he stopped referring to me as his friend. Understandably so. No one could think of themselves as equals with someone who performed miracles. Awe, fear, reverence, they were all feelings that came from the same place. An inability to think of me as a human, who experienced the world the same way he did. He saw me as abnormal. I'd always been fine with that. It was how I was supposed to be. Being different was what I had always wanted, and in some way it is what had kept me going. So seeing him put more and more distance between us shouldn't have bothered me in the slightest. But I continued to offer his sister my blood, no matter how distant he grew. Eventually he stopped inviting me on walks, but that didn't matter. I would serve my duty and perform miracles regardless. He would simply knock on my cottage door and say,
My sister's fallen ill again. Would you come perform another miracle?
I could hear the apprehension in his voice. No longer did he show me his gentle smile. No longer did we listen to the birds singing together. No longer was I the one being cold and distant. And no longer did he say, "See you again, we parted ways." Back in my village, when everyone feared and revered me as a saint, it filled me with a childish sense of superiority. But there was no superiority now, only a prickling in the softened shell of my heart. I was no longer the child I had once been. I had changed. I had learned what warmth felt like. My memories of that time were vague and ethereal, but the feelings they had created lived on, deep within me. For a time, I had felt a warm familiarity around Mel, which only made me yearn for him to treat me that way again. I wanted to be able to open up to someone once more, though I never said as much out loud. Gloomy day after gloomy day had passed, and then I received a new visitor. I asked them for their business from behind the door, but they hesitated for a few moments before responding. My instincts told me that whoever it wasn't the noble boy. So I waited, perplexed and slightly on edge for them to say something, and when they finally did, I was left aghast at what I heard.
Are you the witch with the miracle blood? Oh boy!
Why did he sound like the man who had slaughtered the slaves in the carriage, laughing all the while? What was he doing at my cottage? I thought he had wandered off somewhere never to be seen again. I thought he was out of my life for good.
Why? Why did he call me a witch? And how did he know my blood had powers? Had Mel told him? Or maybe his talkative little sister had gone running around blabbing about it. I should have been clearer with them. Made absolutely certain they knew to keep their mouths shut. Please leave. It took all my strength to get those 2 words out without my voice shaking. I could hear the screams from 4 years ago echoing in my mind. I could see the limbs flying, the blood pooling at my feet. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it pulsing in my ears. Please, stay away from my home. After all that time I'd spent forgetting about everything, closing myself off, finally finding peace. Why did this monster, who reminded me only of senseless violence and death, have to come back into my world? I never wanted to go through anything like that again.
I am in need of your blood. Could you not spare a little?
I have nothing to spare for a man like you. My blood is only for the sick and needy. So please go away. Stay away from me. I'm begging you. Get away from this place! You're a murderer. I want nothing to do with you. So please just go away.
As you say.
Is he gone? Oh, thank heavens. My eyes feel like they're burning. Morgana, you have to be strong. You cannot let this get to you. Be strong. You have nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. No, stop. Fight it back. I'd sworn never to try again. But at the moment fear released its grip on me, everything that had built up come pouring out in a hot stream. Tears soaked my face. I wiped and still my hands came back wet. With each passing second I felt myself reverting into an ordinary helpless little girl. That's what I had always been. My whole life I had just been putting on airs. In reality, I wasn't even strong enough to withstand a little fright. Even with the horrid man gone, I couldn't rest easy. I couldn't be sure if he was gone for good. Maybe he was just waiting for a more opportune moment to target me again. The following day, I took a brief walk with the noble boy, but I couldn't bring myself to talk to him about what had happened. With how much distance he was keeping between us, I doubted he would be willing to do anything to help. For 3 days and 3 nights, I shook in terror. Thinking, considering, speculating, wondering, hardly getting a wink of sleep. I was too anxious to sit still, so I paced in circles around the chair by the fireplace. It's too soon to be sure I'm safe. Can't go outside unless I absolutely must, not even just to get water from the lake. He could be waiting in the shadows to take my life. I'm not safe here anymore. I shouldn't have said anything about my powers. They've only ever brought me trouble. I should probably find somewhere else to live. But where? How far could I even get on my own? You could be out there waiting for me to open the door. I would need help. Don't be a fool. No one's going to help me. The boy barely even wants to talk to me anymore. All I wanted was a quiet life. Is it him? Did he return? Calm yourself. He knocks harder than that. It's not him. Who's there? It's me. His sister needs more of my blood. I'm not here about Nellie today. I'm sorry for being so distant lately. What? Oh no. Oh no! No! This is the 3rd time in a row I'm gonna be witnessing this again. arisen the fourth. I don't... I want to talk things over.
He's finally reconsidered. If he can treat me like a friend again, then maybe I could ask him. I want to talk to you too. I opened the door without a second thought. I let my guard drop, because in my mind the flaxen-haired boy briefly took the place of the slave man from the brothel. The man who had saved me from the terrible lord offered me his hand, guided me into the light, and here he was again to set me free, to take me away from this place, take me somewhere new. He had pulled me out of the darkest depths of despair, and here he was again, ready to offer me his hand, the glimmer of hope to cast away the shadows. So I reached out to take it, and my arm went tumbling to the ground, my hope following not far behind. Well, my arm... Damn it.
Oh, Jesus!
Take it.
That's your share. Should last you long enough.
What do you mean take it? What do you mean take? Why are you taking? Why? How could you betray me like that? How could I opened the door? You said you wanted to talk. So what is that man doing here? Why would you bring him here? How could you do this to me? What does he mean, share your share? What is it just easier for you to take the whole arm than keeping back and asking for me to help? What it is? What it was? I thought you were a good person. I thought you were a good person. I trust you. I believed you. I opened the door for you because I thought you wanted to talk to. I trusted you. I trusted you. I thought you were a good person, a nice man. I would have given you when you're such so much blood as you needed. You just had to ask, and I would have come. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to do. I would have helped whenever I. Jesus.
Nothing personal. I just need your blood. Without it, she'll lose her church. She needs the money. I needed some way of getting enough money to keep her church running. So the Lord made me an offer.
Lord, why him again?
If I brought him the witch with the miracle blood, he would finance a whole new church for her. So don't take it personally. You get to be the sacrifice. To keep her church from collapsing. To keep her world from collapsing. So don't take it personally, witch. Cheers! A saint's blood and good fortune to all. You're a damned witch wearing a saint's skin.
No, I'm not a witch. After cutting off my left arm, the strange-looking man stuffed me into a sack and tied me up and threw me over his shoulder and carried me away somewhere, and while he was walking, he muttered over at me as over his shoulder, explaining where we were going. Apparently a new church run by someone called the Saintess, and she was going to give me my blood to patrons of the church, saying it was some kind of miracle elixir. But why was this what was this nameless nun doing calling herself a saintess when I was the real saint? And why did I have to be the witch sacrificed for her sake? It didn't make any sense. And most of all, why was the Lord involved? Why did that vicious, cruel, horrible, miserable man have to come back into my life? Why couldn't he just leave me alone? Was that really so hard? Why? He already knew he had his way with me. He had his terrible banquets, his blood sabbaths, already did what he needed with more of my blood. Hadn't he already had enough? Did he find out it had real powers and so he decided to come back for more? Was that it? He could have just called me the Saintess instead of her. He didn't have to make me into a witch. Oh, it's because of my face, isn't it? He wanted a pretty face to put on his brand new church, not an ugly, scarred face like mine. But that's all she's just She's just pretty. I can perform miracles, but I'm here with my arm cut off and stuffed in a bag. Even slaves are treated better than this. All I wanted was a quiet life, but I have this power, so I just want to use it to help. That's all. Oh, Father, your trial is too great. I cannot bear it any. I wasn't born to spend my whole life suffering. About time.
There's your witch.
Tell me you didn't harm her, dog. I smell blood.
You only instructed me not to kill her. Mistakes were made. Limbs were lost. I cleaned up all the blood I got on me. No one suspected anything. That you were able to immediately recognize it as the smell of blood says quite a bit, Lord. You have killed before, haven't you?
Enough yapping. She's alive, yes?
Of course.
Oh god. No tears. Well, that's a good girl. Oh god. This is oh my god. She's not hearing him, she's hearing...
It simply wouldn't be the same if you cried and blubbered like a lowly slave or a whore. Dignified and saintly. That's what I need you to be. Welcome, witch. You'll be giving your blood to all my people now, not only me.
Is that you?
Oh, do you remember me? What an honor. A truly splendid honor.
How could I ever forget? How could I ever forget? All the pain and humiliation you put me through! How could I ever forget the blood sabbats you so loved to hold? Haven't had enough, have you? Leaving scars on every inch of my body wasn't enough for you? You haven't had your fill of my blood?
I'm thrilled to know the great saint remembers the lavish parties I threw for her. I take it they left quite an impression then.
You're the man who bound me, cut me up and called me a witch, and then tried to kill me. I haven't forgotten you even for a moment.
That's splendid to hear. I'm sure you tried so very hard to cast my memory aside. But you never could you? And you know what that means? That the scars I left all over you run deeper than anything else you've ever experienced. Look at that face, so twisted and hideous. I bet you loathe me. That you'll never be able to forgive me.
I don't care how much my father preaches forgiveness. That's the one thing you'll never get from me. I despise you with all my soul. I revile you with every fiber of my being. For every scar you gave me, I give you a lifetime of hatred. Never. You will never have my forgiveness. This man, the Lord, he destroyed me, mind and body. This man ruined my life.
I see. So I'm the one who ruined your life. But why should that concern me? Your words are as insignificant as the chirps of a dying robin. Scream and shout until your throat goes sore.
It doesn't change anything. We lock the witch up and proceed as planned.
Oh, God.
Oh, Father, God of heaven and earth, my life is become nothing, shattered and empty. Oh, now we're back in Jacopo's perspective, but that's where I'm going to end it. Jesus. So, that's what she saw. Damn. Just damn. Making her forget what the Lord was like just backfired immensely. And now she could only see Barnier in Jacopo's place. But what was that last moment of clarity? Oh, wait. What we saw was her hallucinating the memory of Barnier haunting her. And that last bit was just there to show that's not what Jacopo would ever say. And that in that last bit was probably the only thing he actually did say. None of what she witnessed was
Jacopo. What, I mean... Oh my god. I keep telling myself to prepare myself for each one of these recordings, but in the end, I'm never prepared for it. I never am. Damn Fata Morgana, you get me every freaking time. It's no wonder you're such a good story. You're just that good. So, that is where I'm going to end it. Looks like our next segment's going to be called Torn. And judging by the color text, it's going to be through Jacopo's perspective. What he's going to be like mentally, what he's going to be going through as he just realized he locked up he basically not only got her arm pretty much removed, but also got the girl he loved locked up. Damn it! This freaking novel! Oh my god. Okay. I think it's a good thing I'm ending it here because I need to take time to kind of... It doesn't matter how many times I witnessed that, even though it was actually different because this was, again, through Morgana's perspective, not Jacopo, not Mel's, not the swordsman, strictly through Morgana's. And that was just... Oh, God. This novel does things to people. And I guess that just goes to show how good it is. But it also goes to show that the faint of heart are not meant to read this. Why the hell am I reading it? Oh yeah, because I like tormenting myself. Okay. That's where I'm going to end it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.